Welcome to Concert Pipeline. I'm Steve Jones. Today on the program, we have a band called Fruition. I had a chance to talk to Kellen from Fruition. He's a singer from Portland, and we went pretty far in depth. We talked about their new album, How to Make Mistakes. They recorded all songs in 7 days, co-writing for the first time, kind of taking a new approach to their process. We had a really, really fun chat, and we're going to get into that in just a moment. Before we do, just a brief update on what's going on in my world. I'm about to have a birthday celebration for my son, who is turning 11, and he's really looking forward to that. He loves all things with his birthday. He loves gifts, and I'm trying to get him to focus more on, hey, it's not about the things you get, it's about the people you're with. But I think that's all kind of lost on him a little bit at this point. But I have that, and then the 49ers are playing. And I was supposed to go to San Francisco for a band interview at Cafe du Nord, and I just had to back out of it. And I don't like doing that. That's not common for me. I rarely ever, bail on an interview or anything. And I didn't fully bail. I said that we could. I asked if we could do it through Zoom, and didn't get a response. That it was even happening until yesterday, which I didn't see it until last night. And I had to take a step back and just say, okay, I'm taking on too much. I try and pack things in too much where it's not necessary to squeeze so much into a little bit of time. I even joked about that sort of thing with some of my friends yesterday, who we're getting into duck hunting season, and that's about to get started. And by the way, these Concert Pipeline will probably slow down on episodes during the months of November to January. I did that last year, and it really gave me a good balance between my other hobby of duck hunting and just making sure I'm not overdoing it. But with friends yesterday, a buddy of mine got a good reservation on public land for hunting, and sent it to us. And then my other buddy was like, "Oh, sorry, Steve and I have crabbing opener that day. We're going crabbing." And I was like, okay, you're thinking about this wrong. Crabbing opener starts at midnight on this date. So we can start that. We can get our limit on crabs. There's our 10 Dungeness crabs. We'll wrap that up, be done and home by 3:30, and then go out in the morning, and then go out to Sacramento to duck hunt from there. And I was half kidding. If my other buddy wanted to push that hard and make it happen, I might be swayed to do it. But to do both crabbing and duck hunting in the same day, but it's just too much. And so I apologize to the managers of the band who are setting up the interview. They're really cool to me, and they've given me bands in the past and been very good to me. And I just apologize. I wasn't able to make it happen. I had to call it and focus on my son and my family that's coming to visit, and not rush, into sit in traffic to get to this San Francisco for a 20-minute band interview. So, I want to do it on Zoom. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. But going all the way to San Francisco for a 20-minute interview wasn't in the cards today. So what is in the cards is my interview with Fruition. So let's get into that, shall we? Again, I had a chance to interview Kellen. Let's get into our fun conversation that we had. Kellen, how's your day treating you so far?
It's pretty nice. I'm in San Francisco, California at the moment. It's quite hot, but I have no complaints.
It is very hot right now for October in the Bay Area, I'll tell you that. So yeah, I'm about an hour outside of San Francisco,
all right.
East towards Sacramento. So
Gotcha.
not too far, but
Cool, man.
Yeah. So I feel you. It's been pretty gross, and I think it's going to cool down after today. So we'll call that a win.
I'm happy to have the day off from traveling or really doing anything manual. So it feels good. It's a recovery day.
Yeah, for sure. What are you doing on your recovery day?
Eating.
That's a good thing to do.
Couching, and that's about it.
Good couple of things.
I actually did I went and got my guitar out and opened the case and played some chords just because it's better to have the guitar out and open than hiding in the case. That's a trick I learned a long while ago.
If it's in the case, it doesn't get used.
If it's in the case, it's not going to get used. But something about like our general attention spans and brain chemistry, if we actually see the instrument, it's like, oh, I kind of want to play that. It's why, like, if you ever walk into a room with a piano in it, everyone's always like, plunk, everyone will hit a key on that piano, you know?
Yeah, it's there. You got it, right?
Yeah. So it's just good to be able to have that visual connection, because then I want to go touch it.
Yeah, yeah. And you just played Hardly Strictly. Tell me
Yeah.
about that. I know it was. I saw your post. It was 14 years in the making for you all that you wanted to play
Yeah.
Hardly Strictly.
Yeah. It was a full circle moment, you know. We used to go on tours that just like primarily focused around busking, you know, playing on the street.
Yeah.
And once we realized that we could go to a free festival inside of Golden Gate Park and kind of get away with busking there, where there's just like literally a million people walking by throughout the course of the weekend. Like, wow, what a great place to sharpen our chops and get some fans, make some money, and then also like for free go see absolute music legends, you know.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we saw we saw Earl Scruggs there, we saw Odetta there, you know. Like we're seeing like these like monsters of music history for free. So but yeah, we always wanted to play that fest on an actual stage, obviously. And you know, it might have taken longer than we hoped, but we did it, and the result was magical. The response was supportive and strong,
Yeah.
and I thought we played really well. And yeah, we are just stoked. We actually, after we got off stage, went and busked in the park.
I saw a picture of that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So kind
we
of.
went and played for like a half an hour right before Mavis Staples got on stage. That was our time frame. We're like, okay, we'll busk until Mavis goes on. Like that's the
Had
kind
to see
of,
Mavis, right? Yeah.
yeah, that's the kind of sheer musical prowess and legendary stuff, you know, artists that they get for that fest. It's
It,
mind-boggling.
yeah. It's great. It's amazing and crazy that she's still out there playing and everything. You know, yeah.
Yeah.
I saw her a couple years ago at Bottle Rock and
Yeah.
in Napa, and yeah, I mean, she's still doing the thing. She's got it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not even just like, yeah, exactly. Like she still got it. It's not
Yeah.
even like, wow,
Yeah.
it's amazing that she still can. It's like, no, she's doing more than just like, oh, she can. Like she's like a badass still, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. It's not the
Uh,
Frankie Vallen thing that's been going around the past week or two. Did you see that? Like,
no.
they pretty much brought his, let's just call it a corpse. I mean, he's over 90 years old, and he's just like standing there mouthing the words, and then this video went viral about like, okay, who's, you know, putting you to doing this, because he's not even like singing really. He's just out there
Wow.
standing with a microphone in front of him and other people, backup singers and everything. It's crazy.
Whoa, that's awful.
Yeah, yeah,
I
it's
mean,
not. But
yeah.
so supposedly he replied and said that said that no, he wouldn't be doing it if he didn't want to, and he's
All
still
right.
you
Yeah.
know.
I mean, more power to you. I think that like I kind of understand that in the sense that like musicians don't really retire.
No, no, they
Like
don't.
an artist isn't really gonna like be like, okay, done making art. I mean, I'm sure someone, I can't speak for everybody, but the way I look at it, it's like I'm not gonna retire from
Yeah,
this.
this is it. This is the gig for.
It's like my job, but it's also how I express myself and how I find joy, and you know, like how I find solace, and yeah, all that shit.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, and you also played Sweetwater and Mill Valley, right?
Yeah, just the night before the night before our Hardly Strictly set,
That's
we
a cool
played up
venue.
there, and
It's
that was
a,
great too. We had a rocking good time. We had a crazy weekend because we played at a festival in Arkansas on Thursday night, and then got on a plane at sunrise the next morning to make it to San Francisco to drive up to Mill Valley to play that, and then play at Hardly Strictly the next morning. So it's just in my mind, it was like one amorphous gig.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like this just like 3 shows wrapped into the span of about 36 hours, like over the course of 4,000 miles, and all with like backline gear. You know, we were borrowing stuff because can't fly with our full rig. And so it was a lot of rental, backline, borrowing stuff from friends, you know, getting rides. We didn't have our van, like all these things really had to come together to make this weekend work. And lo and behold, they did, you know, like luckily it's not our first rodeo doing like questionably logistic wise questionable shit. And we support each other, and we got a good team helping us out, and but suffice to say, I'm exhausted today as like my brain and body are finally like, are we done? Are we good for a couple days? Can we chill? We'll watch some bullshit on TV or smoke some weed or whatever? Like, I'm like, yes, body, we can. We
Yeah.
can't. You know what? Let's go to the movies, body. Let's do it. So yeah, feels good.
It's not a normal week for Fruition, is what I'm gathering. So
Yeah, business, you know, just business is normal. Just like out
yeah,
here trying to like, still trying to just like promote ourselves as best we can. And that just takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
yeah, for sure. So let's go back to the early days. Tell me about music in your house when you were a kid. Like, what were your parents listening to? What sort of influence did they have on you?
Interesting. My parents definitely like their music taste influenced my early musical explorations. They had, you know, they had the Beatles, like those like box set Beatles, the blue and the red ones that were like double disc. Like one was like
Yeah,
1964 to 1967, and then the red one I think was like 67 to 69 or whatever. But I definitely rocked those, and like some Neil Young greatest hits, and like their Love the Grateful Dead. So I was like listening to Grateful Dead studio albums, and you know, some stuff that I thought was cheesy at the time that then I came around to as an adult. Like, oh wait, this is cheesy, but it's beautiful, or it's like legendary or whatever. And then
yeah.
yeah, like I listened to everything growing up. I remember I got that do you remember the Columbia House, like
Oh, the
15,
penny CDs and
15 CDs for one
uh,
penny
yeah,
deal? I
yeah, of
definitely like
course.
signed
Yeah,
up for that behind my parents' back when I was about 10 or 11,
yeah.
and just got like, I think I got everything. I got like the Boys to Men remix collection, and Led Zeppelin on BBC radio, and like ICP and TLC and
Mm.
Wallflowers and Limp Bizkit and Jimi Hendrix, and just like such a menagerie of like,
Put it all in a blender and you
yeah,
just
just like early 90s hits and like legendary stuff all rolled into one. And I wish I still had, I don't have any of those CDs anymore, but I wish I did. And actually, now that I say that, I remember one that did have a pretty big impact on me was the Forrest Gump soundtrack, which
okay.
was
Yeah,
like another like 2 disc, but it was just like so many bangers, you know, it was
I
like
feel like I had that. What was it, like Crash Test Dummies and stuff? I'm trying to remember who's.
on the Forrest
Uh,
Gump soundtrack. No,
yeah.
it was all like 60s
Oh, okay.
60s and 70s music, at least to my recollection. I don't actually, I'd have to look at the track list now, but like that's where I discovered like Simon and Garfunkel and
Mm.
DCR and like these bands that are just, you know, obviously Hall of Fame stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So it all had its influence. We had a piano in the house growing up that was kind of like inherited, that no one really played, but my parents put all 3 of us kids in piano lessons to see who it would take with, and it definitely took with me. I hated the lesson
Yeah.
part, but I loved playing. So I ended up I hated the idea of learning how to read music, and I hated the
Mm.
idea of practicing. Um, which sucks. I wish I'd have developed those a little more at that age.
Yeah.
But no regrets, no regrets, because I did figure out like how to play by ear, and I figured out what I liked to do instead of like, here's what you should do, here, play this Beethoven or whatever. Um, and yeah, I even remember like faking being sick to get out of piano lessons, like on
Oh,
more than
really?
one occasion. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
uh but yeah, piano growing up, and then I really wanted to play guitar because guitar seemed so much cooler than piano to like a sixth grader.
Yeah.
Begged my parents to get me an electric guitar, and they got me a guitar, but it was an acoustic, and bless them for that, because that like really um they just really helped nurture my desire to play, um even if it wasn't like in the orthodox like uh route of take these lessons and graduate to this next level. It was more like just play. I also like was fortunate enough to go to an arts focused elementary and middle school where I grew up in Southern California, in Vista, California. Um, and it was a really cool experience. It was like in a kind of a shitty part of town, and didn't necessarily get much funding, but it was still arts focused. So we had
Give,
we
yeah.
had a different elective every day, whether it was dance or drama or visual arts or instrumental music or vocal music. I think that was the 5 days of the week. And I got to just like really like play in all those categories growing up. And that's like, I didn't know until later in life how rare and unique that opportunity was.
Yeah. You're immersed in it. Like it wasn't even just like a class off to the side or anything.
Yeah,
Like you
no, it
had
was like
a lot of it.
part of our day. And so I'm like eternally grateful for that. And I'm still friends with some of those teachers. So like they've gotten to see, like some of them will come to my shows when we play in SoCal. And that's just like infinitely beautiful to me, to like call them peers now, 20, 30 years later. But yeah, I guess that's kind of my background. I like played in punk bands in high school because that's really what I was into at that time. Um, and then when I moved to Portland in 2005, that's when I started meeting my would-be bandmates and getting into this world of like uh, like folk music. I wasn't
Yeah.
I wasn't about that life at all until I met Mimi, really, who's the mandolinist and guitarist and one of the three songwriters in Fruition.
Yeah. And there
Uh,
was no busking with the punk bands, by the way, I'm guessing, right? So that wasn't.
no, no, I definitely didn't play it out on a street corner until I moved to Portland.
Yeah. Yeah. More of a Portland thing and folk music, a little more welcoming
Yeah,
to the to the busking.
yeah,
But
yeah, exactly. I grew up in SoCal. Like, if anything, if I was busking down there, it would have been like playing Jack Johnson and Bob Marley songs. Like,
yeah.
but actually, like Jack Johnson being such a god in SoCal was also like a really inspiring and driving force for me as a young musician, because it was just like some dude playing acoustic guitar and like singing pretty like kind of dreamy beach songs. I was like, well, shit, I bet I could do that. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like the most complicated music, and it's not like crazy vocal runs or anything. It's just like honest and pretty and catchy, and like, damn, I want to do that. And I think that like I didn't realize till later how much of an impact he had on my music career. And then it would, a few years later, I think it was 2014 or 15, Fruition did a run opening for Jack Johnson, which was another like great full circle moment in my life.
Did you get to tell him? Did you talk to Jack and tell him, hey,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm gonna
totally.
and
Totally.
how'd that go? Tell me.
I mean, he was totally humbled and sweet about it. Nicest guy I've ever worked with, like as a musician or otherwise. So humble and like just, yeah, so pro and just so about the music and about treating people how they want to be treated, and how just he's golden. He's a golden boy.
Yeah. Yeah. How was the tour as a whole? And did it kind of, expose you to other fans and everything? Kind of help
Oh yeah.
build your audience a lot?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's one of the best ways you can grow your audience these days, is doing those support runs with a bigger band, because we know which songs to play in a short set to like get people's attention. And yeah, we definitely saw a lot of growth. I think we did 5 shows with Jack. And we saw a lot of growth. Anytime we get to do shit like that, it's a boon for our support base. And so yeah, we're still out there just trying to grow it slowly but surely.
Yeah. And so the band started as Mimi Naha's Fruition, right? Uh, and
Yeah.
and then kind of
So Mimi was already kind of like operating some of her solo and duo gigs with another friend of ours from Portland, and she was like the first few shows were Mimi Naja's Fruition. And then when her and Jacob and I started doing this as a trio, trying to figure out a name, she's like, well, Fruition is a great name for a band. Let's use that. Take away the Mimi Naja thing and call it Fruition. So it was definitely Mimi Naja's Fruition though for a good little while there. Like we were actually talking about that the other day, that I've seen a Fruition show, you know,
before you were even in it, huh?
before I was in it, which is a pretty rare thing to be able to say. But it's changed a bit since then. That would have been 2007 that I saw a Fruition show before I was in it. And now 16, 17 years later, you know, we've come to fruition. Let's just say
We've come to fruition.
Let's say it. Let's get it off the table.
Not the first time it's
get it out of our systems.
Yeah. Okay. Shake that off. We get it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We're good. Now we can start.
Okay. Nice to see you. No. Yeah. And so one of the big breaks also, just to get back to busking a little bit, and we'll kind of probably weave that through the whole thing, but was your manager, and I assume it's still your manager at this point now, dropped his business card in the guitar case. And so, so I'll call him up and tell me how that went.
Yeah, actually that's a good tale, and an inspiring tale for up and coming people that are like trying to get their name out there. And if busking is one of their tools, this shows that it works. We were at South by Southwest, you know, infamous industry focused music week-long fest out of Austin, Texas. And we went there just to busk. I think we actually did maybe have an official showcase show at a coffee shop or something, but our main focus there was to busk every day out on 6th Street or Congress Street or whatever the name of the main Austin drag is. But we go out there and crush all day in the sun and sell CDs and get email newsletter signups. And, you know, it was kind of before Instagram was like the main way that people are doing the shit. So we get a lot of newsletter signups and we just do these marathon shifts busking, to the point where like we're all losing our voices, we're getting sick. Also, we're like using all that busking money to like go buy PBR and whiskey, and like we're like just cranking cigarettes and smoking weed and all this shit, like really wearing ourselves thin day in and day out busking. And
how many hours a day? Like how many hours are we talking about?
I think I don't want to like overplay it, but I'd say we were doing a solid work day each day, like probably like 6 to 8 hours.
That's a long set.
With breaks, you know, you know, and we, you know, we'd move spots if we needed to, or just like seek shade or whatever. But one night I remember we went out after like everyone's dead. We're like, let's just go out for one more shift. Like you never know what's going to happen. And found like a breezy little street corner, and the foot traffic was not popping off, but we're like, what are we doing out here? We already came out, let's play. And I remember we just played a few songs, and a dude came up and watched us for a little bit and then tossed his business card in and took off. And after we finished that song, we looked at it and it was, you know, Josh Nkocha from Brushfire Records, like, and like, I think he wrote Call Me on it or something or whatever. And yeah, it's definitely such like seems like it's from a made for TV movie or something, where it's like, oh, like some big wig suit like tossed his card in our case and it's going to change our lives. And it totally did change our lives. I mean, just from putting ourselves out there, you know, and he's still our manager to this day. Um, and like that was another big step in us kind of like forging this path for ourselves from the ground up. It's just this whole thing has just been absolutely grassroots from day one, with like no real cheat codes or cutting in line or like anyone funding us or like
Yeah.
knowing the right people in the right places connection wise. Like we've just had to like really work and bleed for every success that we've gotten. And that's not in any way to be like a woe is me type of attitude. It's just the facts.
Yeah. Just honest.
We've been doing this thing our way, whether we meant to or not. We've just been like doing it the best way we know how, and like forging these achievements and connections by luck and by perseverance and by having cool music,
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
nice people.
Yeah. Was there ever a point where you or anybody in the band were just like, I don't know if I have it in me to kind of keep doing this, might need to go back to, the day job thing, I mean, because that's,
Oh yeah. I think that it's probably a pretty common feeling for like anyone that's struggling with like the grind of being a musician and a touring musician or just an artist in general, where your income relies on you creating art that people resonate with, b being able to like market it so that people actually see that shit, and then c being willing to perform it a lot, regardless of how personal or how heavy or what it means to you. It's asking a lot, and it's risking a lot, because there's no guarantee that you're going to make money or that people are going to resonate with it. Um, and so yeah, there's certainly been times of whether it's like you're working your ass off and it doesn't feel like anyone's noticing, or you're so close to something and then it slips out of your grasp, or you show up to a city and the ticket sales are so low that you're like, what the hell am I doing here? There's certainly been discouraging moments over the years where it's like you're looking over at someone with a 9 to 5 like, damn, this dude's got it made.
yeah.
They have a paycheck every 2 weeks, they got these vacation days,
Get to
they
sleep in a bed.
get to
Yeah.
sleep in their bed every night and like go home to their family, wake up to their wife or their dog or husband or whatever partner. The grass is always greener in that sense. But yeah, there's certainly been times where each of us have thought like, is this right? um, and like I said, I think that's an entirely human response to being an artist and trying to make money from being an artist. And I think that if you don't go through that, then you're probably kidding yourself.
Yeah.
Or you just got really lucky and were instantly successful the first time you tried, which is such a 1 in a million chance that that's ever going to happen.
Usually takes like 10 years, right? Like, I mean, you have to
Yeah,
get that break. Like you have to keep
yeah.
at it.
And with Fruition, like we grinded and grinded and grinded for like what you said, about 10 years before we really, I mean, we had a bunch of awesome moments throughout those first 10 years. Whether it's playing X festival or opening a show at Red Rocks, or like getting to do this international thing, or getting some radio play, or whatever it was, finally getting
Yeah.
management or booking agent or whatever, all these little achievements. But it wasn't until about 10 years in that we were like really starting to see the fruits of our labor like manifest in the sense that like, okay, this song's getting played on AAA radio around the nation, and we're actually starting to see people come to the show because of the strength of this song being heard, not just because of our grassroots promoting handbills on the side of the street or whatever. Like, okay, these people are coming because they heard about us, and the ticket sales are increasing. People are singing along to this brand new song. It's got to be the radio and the internet doing its magic. Fuck yeah, this is working. Excuse my language.
You're fine.
But fuck yeah. And like of course, once again, not woe is me, but of course, we're starting to see that shit happen, and that's when the pandemic hit.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. After Wild as the Night and Broken at Break of Day, right? Like, and
yeah,
you put all these effort into those companion albums, and are ready to fucking pump everything into them and
so
get out
ready.
there and do it, and then the world stops,
And the world
and
stops, and then as the world came back to life, everything looked a little different in the industry and in the live music spaces. And also, like, you can't really pick up where you left off with an album release cycle.
yeah,
It was just kind of dead in the water at that point. And so, like, if you go back to, like, did you ever think about hanging it up? Or did you ever think that maybe
yeah,
I should get a whatever 9 to 5 or whatever? Like, the pandemic, as it was for a ton of artists, I'm sure, I can only speak for me, but like as it was for a ton of people, I think probably thinking like, hey, maybe this is when I pivot,
mhm.
maybe this is when I figure out how to stay at home more, or how to like have a stable income or whatever. And we definitely all pondered that. We it was a reflective time. We collectively decided like when music comes back, let's do this grind differently, for our family's sake and our mental health sake, and just the longevity of happiness sake. um,
Yeah,
but found it to be pretty hard to come back and feel like we're at almost certain part of this mountain, and getting to a pretty high part of success or momentum, and then to feel like you're back down at the base is incredibly discouraging. um and our bodies are getting older, and our like you know desire to like go out and play a tiny club for 20 people is gone. Like,
yeah, oh
just
yeah,
did that for so long. So it's been an interesting few years of like trying to figure out the right balance of how much are you willing to get back into the trenches and and really really grind for this, how much of that is unnecessary, how much can we, even the landscape has changed as far as, does grinding even do anything when like most people are dedicating their resources to trying to make a viral video, or like trying to make a great catchy piece of merch. Like, all these ways that we make money are, the goalposts are shifting all the time. And
yeah,
which can be maddening, but it's also exciting because if you can figure out how to exploit whatever is popping off, then maybe you don't have to grind in the same way that you thought that you did.
yeah. Yeah, and so I mean, since the pandemic and everything, people in the band have moved to different locations. You all are in different spots.
Yeah.
Some have gotten married, some have had kids. Like,
Yep.
tell me what that does to kind of the dynamic, and how you make it work, how you make continue to make music, how you
Yeah.
get out on the road, when there's kids involved and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even before the pandemic, we had started to like drift from Portland being the hub. Um, and just like, because of the sheer number of shows we were playing, it didn't really matter that we were in the same city anymore. As long as we could all get to where the van is at the start of tour, that's what mattered.
Yeah,
Um, and to that same point, like, we're playing so much that we didn't need to rehearse because we're playing 150 plus shows a year. Like, unless we're bringing new material to the table, or it's time to get into the studio or a writing session, like, we don't need to get together and rehearse. We certainly don't need to live together because we're living together on the road. So that's when people are like, I want to live with my wife, or like, we're going to think about having a kid. And or even like, for me, it was like, can I even have a plant? um which I still can't really,
no,
but
a cactus, maybe a cactus, because you
maybe
know.
maybe cats, except that's not my cactus.
No, it's
um
not coming with you.
no, so yeah, for example, like, I live in New York now, which has been amazing. Not the greatest climate for cactus, but I have been able to keep my most recent one alive, knock on wood.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think that like, it can make the logistics a little challenging from time to time, but it's really it's pretty low on the scale of like, what are we what's the hardest stuff to figure out right now as far as this career and this and making this band machine work. We've gotten the figuring out where to fly and how to get together, and then if we're writing, figure that out. But yeah, that hasn't had too negative of an impact on our. If anything, I think it's probably been for the best to like have everyone be where they want to be, where they're drawn to or called to, or where their family is, where they're needed, where they feel the most alive and fulfilled when they're off the road. I think that's actually good for business. So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, but
no, you did. Keeps things fresh for sure. So.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. I want to ask you about the meaning video that you did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that is really cool. I know there's a helicopter involved, and
Yes.
like tell me how it came about, and what inspired it, and just the logistics of making it happen.
Totally. It's a wacky, magical, like convergence of being in the right place at the right time and just being the right band for the job. But yeah, we were playing a festival called Winter Wondergrass Festival in Squaw Valley, which is like Lake Tahoe area. You know.
Oh yeah.
And we'd done the festival for years, and we had built a reputation for ourselves that was kind of like, this band will like say yes to like crazy gigs. Like we played on top of the mountain, and we played in the ski lift and the gondola, and like kind of just like wacky ideas that the festival promoter, who at the time was the duo of Scott Stoughton and Jen Brazil, who are both still doing a ton of events in their respective lanes. But at the time, I can't remember which one of them came to us and like, hey, we have another zany idea for you guys. I think you guys are the right people for the job. But Warren Miller, which is a really famous name in ski movies, Warren Miller films, had approached the fest and said, hey, we want to like get some footage of your festival, and then we have this idea to like have a band up on top of Palisade, which is like the peak highest mountain around there, or at least the highest mountain that you could land a helicopter
right
around there. And so they threw out Fruition. They want to have this band performing on top of a mountain as the end credits roll in their latest ski film. And so they tapped us for it. Of course, we said yes. They're like, okay, you're going to have to like wake up at 5 a.m. as the sun's coming up because we want to get these sunrise shots. And you're going to have to stand on the very sheer face of a cliff and lip sync to one of your songs probably 5, 6, 7 times while these helicopters fly past you and do these like insane stunts of like hanging out of the helicopter with a full camera rig.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course we said yes.
Of course, yeah, okay. And how much are you charging for this? Oh, you're doing it for free? What?
Yeah. So yeah, like we didn't have to pay to do it, but we also didn't get paid for it.
Didn't get paid.
So
yeah.
That was a wash. Yeah, and so it was originally supposed to be for a Warren Miller ski film, and they didn't end up using it for the film, but they're like, we didn't use it for the film, but you guys can have all this amazing footage and just use it for a music video if you want. And we're like, sure, yeah, okay, yeah. We'll take that, like a film that probably has $100,000 budget, and that'll be our official music video for this song. And it was absolutely nuts. It was before like really fancy drone footage was being captured in that way. Like I think if they did that now, it probably would have been a really expensive drone shot as opposed to like a 4-man helicopter crew with one dude hanging out of the side. They were doing these shots called the hero shot, which is like, you can see it in your mind, like from the movies, where the helicopter comes from down below the cliff and then comes up like this and gets that like crazy fucking wide angle, like the heroes standing atop the cliff. And in that sense, we were the heroes.
And a drone might be able to do that now, but a drone probably can't carry you to the top of the mountain. So it might be a
Yeah,
little more, more effort
right.
involved with that.
That's a great point. No, yeah, we'd have to get up there somehow. It was also the only time I've ever been on a helicopter, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, like that was nuts, and it was actually terrifying. Because we're standing on this cliff face that 9,000 feet up or whatever.
Yeah.
The helicopter's zooming by, which is creating all this wind from different directions. And then the camera crew that was taping us on the ground, or on the mountain rather, was even further down the cliff from us, like constantly struggling to not fall down. So we're like, trying to lip sync and play this song and trying not to like betray this feeling of on our faces that we're feeling in our hearts of like, oh, this cameraman kind of looks like he's about to fucking die. Like, just keep playing. But yeah, it was an insane experience, and yeah, it was all bred from just saying yes to things over the years and being that band that is down to like do something crazy that just might work.
Yeah.
And yeah, I am so beside myself that we have that now that just exists forever.
Yeah.
Like you could look at that and say like you've really achieved something with your career as an artist or in your life or whatever, even if all I had was that to say
That would be good.
like that's such an amazing accomplishment and like one of a kind experience, and it's just like so humbling anytime I toss that video on. I'm so moved by just how unique it is and how lucky I am to get to do this shit. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes me pretty happy that that exists.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And speaking of one of a kind experiences, you mentioned earlier Red Rocks. Like you've gotten to play that like 4 times at least that I counted. Like, tell me about
That
that
sounds about
because
right. Yeah.
that place, for me. It started. I live in California. I don't usually travel multiple states away to go to a show or anything, but I've talked to so many bands over the years that like talked about their experience at Red Rocks. I'm like, I just got to go, and
Yeah.
and it doesn't really matter who I see.
Totally.
And so a handful of years ago, I went, and it was Weird Al and the Colorado Symphony, and
Yes.
Weird Al is great, and one of the best playing that summer. It just happened to be Weird Al. I've seen him a handful of times, and he's great. But
That's amazing. I would kill to see that particular show. Never gotten to see Weird Al, but Weird Al with the symphony sounds special.
yeah, it was pretty great. And of course, the venue itself was incredible. And I think
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back next summer for another show. My favorite musician, actually, Andrew McMahon, is bringing all 3 of his bands to Red Rocks. Something Corporate, Jackson Anakin, and Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness.
Oh, brilliant. I
And
love
three,
that.
yeah, 3 different pianos and everything. And so I'm gonna, I think, go for that show. But
Love that. I definitely, it's been a while, but I very much rocked something corporate a lot. It's been a
yeah,
while. I
yeah.
listened to it in high school, but I definitely should check back in because that shit is dope.
They're back this year, together.
I've been seeing their name pop back up. I was so delighted to see that it's happening.
Yeah, I know Andrew pretty well. I've interviewed him a number of times over the years, and so yeah, I mean, I've seen him a couple of times on this tour. I saw him like at the end of last year, and then I went up to Seattle to see him, and I'm seeing him this weekend in San Francisco. So,
Cool, man.
yeah, they're great, and then apparently next year in at Red Rocks. But yeah, he's a great musician. But what?
Red Rocks is dope. Obviously,
Yeah, yeah,
you've been there now, like you get it. And I think it's a benchmark achievement for any band that's out there doing this. It's something that you always hope to do. And yeah, like you said, I've been really fortunate to get to play there a bunch over the years, supporting bands. Usually we've been like the first of 3, or if it's just been a 2-band bill, we've been the support band, and like it's just like a surreal experience every time because if not just for the fact that it's such a profound view when you're on that stage looking up and seeing these red rock,
Yeah.
obviously walls, and just like 9, 10,000 people. And it's already a natural amphitheater. So like from the stage, you can really hear how the sound carries out into the world.
Yeah.
And I think that like hilariously, one of my like what the experience that pops out to me most when I think about Red Rocks is sound check, because you're there and it's before anyone else is in the crowd and you're checking your instrument, and with no people, with no bodies there to like soak up some of those sound waves as they go up out of the canyon or whatever you call the Red Rocks crevasse.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just hear these sound roll up the stands and out into the Rockies. And it's just like this monster just like projecting out of the amplifiers and the main speakers and just like boom, going blasting out into space, it feels like. And yeah, you think that like my most memorable thing would be like, thousands of people singing along to our music as the sun goes down, which obviously is totally memorable too. But like the first thing when you said that, I thought of my first time sound checking on that stage and hearing those sounds just like larger than I could have ever imagined.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's someplace it's kind of like almost a mythical place in the minds of concert goers and artists alike, because everyone knows what it is. You've seen the pictures, maybe you've seen a show there, or for me, like um I visited there as a kid, like on a family vacation to Colorado, just like went during the day because it's open,
Yeah. You
for
can just walk
visitors
in
during
and
the day. Just walk in,
yeah.
you can walk on stage. It's like doesn't matter because there's no production or show going on. And like I remember being whatever 13 years old and just being up there on the stage and like pretending to play, um and I don't think I made a conscious like I'm gonna play here someday. Like wasn't like a movie or
No.
anything, but like it's cool to be able to have that memory and juxtapose it to then playing on that stage.
Yeah.
After we played there a few times, we did make it a goal to okay, let's like be really discerning about the next time we play. Like we'd like to like set a goal for ourselves to okay, the next time we play here will be because it's our show, or it's a great co-bill, or whatever. And maybe that was lofty or ambitious. Like if another offer comes through for next summer, like we might say
You're
yeah.
not going to turn it. You're not going to turn it down. We had a goal. I don't know. We agreed. We're not going to play your
um,
Red Rocks unless we're top.
but you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised at some of the things that you say yes or no to just because of what you're trying to achieve. Or maybe the money's not right, or maybe the timing's not great, or maybe whatever it is. And we've probably said no to some stuff over the years that we should have said yes to, but we've definitely said yes to some stuff we should have said no to. So it's a crapshoot, and it's always surprising where those big level ups end up coming from. Because sometimes it's just a dude throwing a business card in your case when you're busking, or it is playing a high profile show and gaining a bunch of new fans, or it's just like you happen to hang with the right person at a party, or it's the one thing that's held true is that you have to put yourself out there, otherwise
Yeah.
none of this shit's going to happen. And that's becoming more and more clear to us again now in this post-pandemic kind of landscape, that even though we have done so much work, we have to keep doing it. We have to
Yeah.
keep doing the work and putting ourselves out there, even though we've achieved so much. And in the eyes of someone who may not be as familiar with the biz, like they might think that like, wow, you guys made it. Like you've done it. You've Red Rocks. You have this video on top of a mountain and a helicopter. Like all this amazing achievements. You're on the radio. You're on Spotify. Wow, like all these things that to the to the untrained eye might seem like, holy shit, you're a rock star. Um, we just have, all we see is where we want to be next.
You're not done. Yeah.
Of course, we're looking back proudly about what we've achieved, but like I keep saying, like we're just getting started. We just put out a new album that is kind of our reintroduction to the world. It feels like, and it's just crazy. It's crazy vying for people's attention in this day and age. It's crazy the idea of doing this grind that we've already been doing, and in some ways feeling like we're starting over. Because like that thing I just said, like we're just getting started.
Yeah.
That's like the optimistic way of saying we're starting over. Now that I think about it, like we're just getting started. It makes me feel fired up. Like, oh yeah, wait till you see what comes next. Like we have 3 songwriters in this band, so we always have new songs. We always new ideas, and we're a 5-headed beast when it comes to creative ideas for where to take this next, or which road to try and go down, whether it's a genre that we want to be associated with, or a festival that we want to do, or, you know, like being able to do Hardly Strictly was huge. You know, that kind of shit is what we need. And so we just, you know, just keep putting ourselves out there, pedal to the metal, be a little more discerning with some of the things we say yes to, but at the end of the day, like saying yes. And you know, I ain't trying to just go out there and play for exposure by any means. Like that's what you do when you're 20 and playing on the street. For me, you know, I'm 40 now. Like I don't necessarily want to be playing free shows, but saying yes and being proactive and being easy to work with, and just like just putting ourselves out there is it's all we have. Is like the music will shine because we believe in the product. It's just the method of getting it out there shifts all the time. And so we have to stay on our toes and try not to get discouraged when the method doesn't work anymore and we have to change gears. But I have faith, and I have a great team, and we make really cool music. So it's bound to work, right?
Yeah, for sure. And so you mentioned the new album, right? Let's talk about that just for a moment here before we wrap. Like, it's How to Make Mistakes.
Yes.
You took a different approach to this album than you had in the past. You talk about the 3 main songwriters, where typically you all write separately and then bring everything to the table, but this time you all wrote together. And so tell me about that. You know, how that dynamic played into, you know, the sound and feel and what you pulled out of this album.
Totally. Yeah, it's, you know, we've always been pretty collaborative once we're in the studio, in the sense of like, okay, what does this song need the most? Like what will make like whether it's getting rid of a verse or adding this harmony or maybe changing the feel of it, whatever we can do to serve the song. But yeah, like you said, something that's a little different about this album is that we did more co-writing together. Historically, one of the 3 songwriters would bring a finished song to the table with a vague idea of like, this is what I want the drums to do, and this is kind of where I'm hearing harmonies, and I think that you should play guitar on this one, Mando, piano, whatever. And on this album, and just like post-pandemic in general with our writing, like we're finally at the point where we are mature enough as artists and just confident enough as humans to let our guard down a little bit with each other and kind of like kill our egos a little bit and bring just an idea to the table, whether it's a verse or a phrase or a riff or a chord progression or just an idea, and bring it to the table with other songwriters and like be like, let's flesh this out, or like, can you help me write a chorus, or on the flip side of that, bringing a full song and being willing to be like, hey, like can you help me make this song better? Like I brought a song from this album called Saturday Night that I brought to the table, and it had this whole chorus section that like I felt like it needed a chorus because the rest wasn't feeling like a full song. And I brought it to the band, and it can still hurt a little bit because it's your baby, but
Yeah.
we've all opened ourselves up enough and respect each other's opinions and creative minds to be like, yo, what do you think about maybe getting rid of that chorus? Like the chorus is kind of loses me, or like I think we need to maybe work on chopping out some of these verses and and getting to the heart of this song. So yeah, in general, our full band song creation has become much more collaborative, and I always knew that that would happen one day, and that that would be the thing that would unlock our true, like the true core of this band. And it maybe took over a decade to get to that because we were a little more guarded with our individual songs, and a little less willing to be like have another person's name on the credit or have someone else's, just thumbprints on fingerprints on the song.
Yeah.
But some of the great songwriting bands, whether it's the Beatles, the Almonds, or the Crosby, Stills, and Nashes of our world, like these like co-writes are these like greater than the sum of their parts alchemy, almost. It's like fucking magic that can
Yeah.
only happen with more than one person. And so we're finally tapping into that, and I think that that's just like starting to like explode open a new well of possibilities for us as a band, but also helping us dial in a sound that is uniquely ours, is identifiable and approachable and timeless and catchy and genuine, and just like the reason we called this album How to Make Mistakes is because like we wanted to capture a rawness
Yeah.
of like recording it all live in the studio, like being okay with the mistakes that are on tape, because it's authentic, and it's
Right.
it's real. And even if the listener doesn't necessarily identify a mistake or whatever, there's something subconscious, I think, about the information that's coming out of the speakers when you listen to this record that just says like it's real. It's like real music. It's all, I mean, any album is real music played by real people, even if it's someone programming something on Ableton, like it was still programmed by a person. But like there's something about this album that has a genuine authenticity to it, a warts and all approach that, like I said, like maybe the casual listener can't tell if there's auto tune or not, or doesn't know that we did that guitar solo live during the session instead of overdubbed an hour later. Like most people don't care or can't tell anyway, but I think that subconsciously that does affect your listening experience and just makes it overall more memorable. And for me, I just like I cherish that. I think that's so cool.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. No, and exactly for you, I think is it's important as well because you see the sum of all these parts come together
Yeah,
in one piece in a way that just at this point is natural, right? It's
natural. And it
yeah,
takes a certain amount of trust. You
yeah,
know, I think that like we wouldn't necessarily have been able to do this as a band 5 years ago. Not to say that we didn't trust each other, but like it takes a certain amount of trust, respect, and love for each other to be like, all right, let's just get in here and crush. Even if we did just learn this song, like let's play it until it's good and then hit record and play it until it's bad.
yeah,
Like until you're getting diminishing returns, do as many takes as you can. And it usually gets better with each take until you're like, boom, that was it, and then move on. And we recorded like 17 songs over the course of a few days. It just with that style, all live, never overdubbed a single thing. Um, and most people, when you say that, like, what does that mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But besides the other musicians, like, oh, that's cool, I guess, whatever. But to us, it was important, and to us, it was an achievement.
And is that what you're doing looking forward? Because my understanding is you're working on another album already for
Oh yeah,
with Tucker Martine, and
yeah.
you know, and
So we actually already have recorded all of another album. Um, and we've always had our studio approach, at least for the last 10 years, has always been let's do as much of it live as makes sense. And then let's go back in and hit these harmonies. And maybe let's go back in and punch a solo or fix this part or fix that part or comp together these edits. Um, but it's always been like, let's do as much of it live as we can. And so the approach for the next record coming out of doing this, How to Make Mistakes, was like channel as much of that as we can, but also like be able to go in and add some different kinds of magic and tricks um and like really use the studio as an instrument too. And so and yeah, when you're working with someone like Tucker, um that's what he's known for, is employing the studio as another member of the band and not so much as like a way to cover up mistakes or like a cheap way to like make something instantly better. It's more like, how can we do something that you couldn't necessarily do on your own together, and like make the essence of this song shine even brighter than it necessarily might have been able to if you were just doing it live. um and I think that's kind of like, it's like the difference between like a movie or a Broadway show. Like you can do a lot of stuff live and make an absolutely captivating and timeless piece of art. It's just a different approach than, live versus on film. So it's like and I don't think either one is necessarily better than the other. um they're just different approaches, and we just want to show what we're capable of. And working with someone like Tucker, he is a magician in the sense that he knows how to bring out the best parts of you as an individual musician and just person, because he's so sweet and so just like, once again, easy to work with, honest, and like knows how to push you towards your best, and but also knows how to do that for the song.
yeah,
What can we do best for this song, and like how can we all pour everything we have into this present moment, um and like really, you know make this song the best that it could ever be. And so yeah, we already have another whole album in the can. We haven't begun the mixing process of it. We have some rough mixes of it, but we went to the studio to do that like 2 months after we were in the studio for How to Make Mistakes. So
yeah,
and like I said earlier, like with 3 songwriters and like a desire to level up, a desire to like make sure people know that we're out here doing this shit and like that we're serious, um and then we're not going anywhere, like,
yeah,
but up. um and that just takes like, in this day, like I was saying earlier, like vying for people's attention is maddening. um in this like short attention span, social media, algorithmic, fucking post-apocalyptic wasteland, you might sometimes call it. So having music like ready to go is within everyone's best interest, certainly within our best interests. um, because we're trying to move up. I feel like we've been playing AAA ball for a while, and like we're ready to like move on to the major leagues. And you know I think we have earned it. And at the risk of sounding cocky or presumptuous, I think we deserve it. I think that like Fruition is a great band.
yeah.
Um, and I think that like other musicians have always recognized it, and the people that have noticed us recognize it. And so now we're just trying to get more people to notice, because it seems like when people do, they love it. So our biggest struggle is just getting that shit out there. So
Yeah.
that's part of why we're talking right now.
Oh yeah.
And just like something that keeps me up at night, but something that also like gets me going in the morning. So
Yeah, for sure. Well, you keep having weeks like this week, then
yeah,
it's
exactly. Like this
it,
week was so encouraging for the overall morale and like energy of the band. Like 2 weeks before that, we like had a couple shows that were really low attendance in small clubs, and we're like, God damn it, what the fuck are we doing out here? And then you have a week like this week where we like have these banger shows, big festivals, ton of people singing along, congratulating us, a ton more follows on Insta and Facebook. And it's like, okay, this is working. So it's such a emotional roller coaster and such a spiritual, like, it's demanding.
yeah,
It's not for the faint of heart. And we got so lucky in that the five of us have a pretty unified vision of wanting more, and being willing to work for it, and having thick enough skin to weather the storm of tour, but also being mature enough to know our limits and to ask for what we need, and to give each other space or to lean in and like um, support each other, you know. So
yeah,
we're lucky, and I just have to remember that.
yeah. It's important. It's important, and support each other and just keep putting out, making the good music, right? So
Yeah,
yeah, that's what you got to do.
it would be nice if all we had to do was make great music.
If that's all you had to do, then didn't have to do all the grind that goes with it, huh?
Well,
Yeah.
and I did see, and that's when I talk about a unified goal, that's what
Mhm.
that's all we want, is to like get to a place where we're focused on writing, recording, and performing fucking great music, and not doing every other single piece of the business.
Right.
Which
Right.
we just obviously we have help, we have management, booking, and all these things that are, thank God that we're not doing all of that shit alone. But yeah, you get on these tours with people like Jack Johnson, and it's like, oh, it must be nice to like only really focus on doing the art. I'm an artist.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the goal, that the goal is to slowly start shedding some of these other layers of responsibility and anxiety and worry of how to make the machine chug, and instead focus on the things that we're best at, which is music.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll keep the grind going, and you'll get there, right? So
Yeah, yeah, we will.
yeah. Yeah. Well, Kellen, thank you for taking the time today. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah,
Love
man.
love all the stories and all the work that you've done to get to this point. I mean, it's really inspiring. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Awesome.
Sharing
Yeah,
with me.
it's nice to be able to talk it out. um it's good for me to remember what it is that I love and why, and nice to be able to share it with somebody. So fuck
Well,
yeah.
anytime you need an hour on the couch, you can come back. So
Right on. I'll keep that in mind.
it's good. But in the meantime, you have some serious couch time to catch up on too. So
Oh yeah.
so
Yep.
enjoy your day off, and it'll give you that energy to get back out there and keep it going.
Cool. Thanks, Steve. I appreciate you taking the time too. Really.
Of, of course, of course. You have a great rest of your day. Okay.
All right. All right. Peace.
That was my interview with Fruition here on Concert Pipeline, and that takes us to the final segment of the program, the music news. Okay, I got a couple stories to wind out the program today. The first one is Warped Tour. Now there were rumblings about this over the past week, but then it finally came to fruition, and they're doing 30 years Warped Tour celebrations. They're calling it Warped Tour, and there's mixed reviews. A lot of people are really excited about it. Warped Tour was a part of my youth for sure, going to a bunch of Warped Tours, interviewing a bunch of bands, seeing bands on all different stages, standing side stage, seeing people backstage who at the time I didn't really know who they were, and then they blew up and became super famous, like Paris Hilton and um, Katy Perry and stuff like that. Just having really cool interviews backstage at shows, and having like Tom DeLonge pop into my interview randomly that I was doing with a different band, and interviewing My Chemical Romance and Flogging Molly and Motion City Soundtrack and dozens of bands, so many bands. I mean, and just like having a great time. The tour water was something that was really exciting to me. Also, there was these exclusive cans of water ultimately backstage that water is a scarce commodity at a tour like that, and getting these cool collectible, it felt collectible. I'd save them for a while. Cans of tour water is really special. But they're bringing this back in 2025, and they're calling it Warped Tour. But it's 3 weekends, one in Washington, D.C. in June, one in Long Beach in July, and one in Orlando in November. November, which is ridiculous. Warped Tour was never in November. It was always a summer thing, and it was a tour, not just 3 random weekends screwed across. Someone posted, that's not a tour, that's a festival, and I agree. This is not a Warped Tour. Warped Tour was 50 dates crammed into a summer, where bands are traveling all across the country, blowing tires, having to travel together, saving each other, just crammed super crazily into tiny spots, and playing 30-minute sets when they're not going to, don't know whether they're going to be playing at 12 o'clock or 6 o'clock on a given day, even the biggest bands that were playing. And it was just an experience. It was a vibe. So I don't know who the bands are that are playing yet. I'm interested to find out, and maybe it'll be something that's up my alley, maybe not. But I have so much nostalgia for Warped Tour that I hope they, don't ruin it for this 30th anniversary of Warped Tour. Okay. Other bands that are getting together. Garden State soundtrack artists are going to assemble for a 20th anniversary concert. The Shins, Iron and Wine, Colin Hay, and many more will be performing. These are all bands who contributed to Zach Braff's 2004 directorial debut, Garden State, and almost every artist involved in the soundtrack, Frou, Thievery Corporation, a lot of others are performing at the Greek Theater on March 29th, 2025. Men at Work's, Colin Hay, a bunch of others are going to be getting together. And that's pretty much the story. Is a cool collection of, I mean, you get these artists combining into this album, and that movie was pivotal for a lot of people. It was the chick flick, I think, for for a lot of young adults. And so getting those artists together, I think, is pretty cool. All right. The biggest and saddest story is One Direction's Liam Payne's death. It came out this past week. He plummeted from a third-story hotel room to his death. At first, they didn't know what was the cause, but it seems to be drugs, drug-related. One Direction earned the biggest streaming day of all time following his death. And the remaining members paid tribute to him earlier this week, saying they need time to grieve and process the loss of their brother, who they loved dearly. He was 31 when he died. He fell from the third floor balcony in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And due to multiple traumas and internal and external bleeding, that's the cause of his death, that they just described it as. Since his death, their music has been climbing the charts. People reminiscing on the songs that launched his career. On October 17th, their music received 57.5 million streams worldwide, marking the biggest figures they've ever reached on streaming platforms to date. They're now number one artist on the UK Spotify, number two artist globally, coming in just behind Taylor Swift. Can't take her down. Just can't take her down, right? And Night Changes, their 2014 hit from the album 4, has been among the most played, rising to number 6 in Spotify's daily global songs, more than 4.6 million streams. All right, so good thoughts, to his family. That's really, really sad. Shakira postponed her North American tour to switch from arenas to stadiums after overwhelming demand. She told fans the new concerts will be larger and unlike anything I've ever done before. So I just thought that was interesting. She's like, wait a tick, apparently I'm more popular than I thought I was, so I'm going to be playing bigger places. And I wonder if that means that the tickets are still valid at the new place. I don't know, uh, but she is pushing that back, and that's the tour is going to start in May of 2025, following her Latin America shows. New date's going to be announced on Monday. Uh, it doesn't. The demand for tickets and more shows has reached a point that the tour now requires stadiums. And she said, "I know many of you made big efforts to be a part of these shows. Thank you so much for supporting me through this. Your understanding and love means the world to me and helps me continue to break barriers." It doesn't say anything about current tickets, if there's any, if they're getting refunded or going to be available to be used at the stadium tours. Okay, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Just inductions are underway and happening, and Ozzy Osbourne was just inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, becoming the 27th artist to be included more than once, joining others like John Lennon, Stevie Nicks, and Neil Young. He was first inducted into 2006 as a member of Black Sabbath. And this latest induction is for his solo career, which started in 1980 when he released Blizzard of Oz. After he was fired from the band he helped form. So he was inducted by Jack Black from Tenacious D, the greatest frontman in the history of rock and roll. Ozzy Osbourne, said Black. The cover of Blizzard of Oz was the most metal thing I'd ever seen, and I didn't even know what metal was. Jimmy Buffett was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as well. So there's a lot of inductions happening. Also, Brian Adams, Greg Allman, America, Anthrax, Argent. I don't know if all these were inductions, but there were a bunch of other bands. Foreigner was inducted too. I know Dave Matthews Band, that sort of thing. All right, and we'll end with a funny story. Olivia Rodrigo was left red-faced after accidentally asking a brother and sister to kiss during the concert. And so this was on her Guts World Tour. She's raising funds for her abortion charity during the tour. She's currently in Australia. And part of the show is the Shots Cam, which involves Rodrigo interacting with various fans of the audience. At this concert, she focused on a man and woman after she asked the crowd if anyone had come with their significant other. Once the camera settled on them, she said, "You guys are so cute. Hey, I have a really cute, fun thing to ask. Would you guys give us a kiss on the Shots Cam?" She added, with the crowd enthusiastically cheering the request. However, unknown to her and everyone else in the arena, they were not a couple, but siblings. And you could see the man anxiously shaking his head, saying, "She's my sister." Immediately realizing her mistake, she's reversed her request, saying, "She's your sister? Oh shit! Oh shit! Never mind. Scrap that. Oh god, this hasn't happened before." And of course, it made its way onto TikTok. The man in the video said, "Sorry to disappoint you, Olivia Rodrigo. That would be my sister." So fun times. All right, that is our show for today. Thank you for tuning in. Next week on the program, we have Novo Combo, and I'll probably share some stories from my opening weekend of duck hunting, most likely. So thank you for tuning in. For all of us here at Concert Pipeline, I'm Steve Jones. We'll catch you next time.